Mic is on, and away we go. Today, I wanted to start a new series with you all. So I went to the bookstore last night, and I found this book. I didn't even know this existed. I know that Learning Made Easy makes For Dummies, a Wiley brand, for a lot of things. But I didn't know they had a Formula One one. So we are going to be flipping through Formula One Racing for Dummies. And what this book is supposed to provide us an understanding of F1 rules and history. It will help us get to know the most popular drivers and discover how to follow all F1 events. This is by Jonathan Noble, F1 editor of Motorsport.com. Chasing Grand Prix cars around the world for 30 years. And this is the second edition. So I went through last night and I just kind of highlighted some things. I wanted to create this new series because I know a couple of you have been interested in learning more about the race and the rules, kind of a crash course. And there's still a lot of things that I have yet to learn or have a deeper understanding of. So this will be good for all of us, but there's, as you can see, there's a lot of information here. So I just wanted to start with kind of the basics, but this helps you get carried away with F1 racing. Formula One is the fastest sport out there, and now is the best time to get in on the excitement. Formula One Racing for Dummies shows you the basics of F1 racing, breaking down the cars, the tracks, the teams, and the drivers. Read about racing rules, strategies, and safety protocols, and gain the behind-the-scenes knowledge you'll need to understand what's what on race day. This fun guide even has tips on how to enjoy yourself in the stands should you choose to follow the action all the way to the racetrack. This I got for $24.99 in the US. It retails at $24.99 US and $29.99 Canadian and $18.99 pounds in the UK. I'll put a link to this on Amazon. We're almost at 500 subscribers, which is crazy. So if you're new here, welcome. If you are returning, thank you for your support. I really do appreciate all of the comments, and I say this every video, but it's so true. I started this because I love ASMR and I love racing, specifically open-wheeled racing like IndyCar and Formula One. And I can't believe we're almost at 500 subscribers, so if you could help me get there, that'd be really great. I'm starting to look at options like having a storefront so that I can link all of the things that I talk about, or if I purchase them, if I don't know, where you are in the world, but if you want to buy a copy yourself, you can easily go there. I think I want to create a wish list too, so put some stuff on there that if anyone wants me to review or try, you have access to, send that over. Of course, I'm not asking anyone to do that, but I was just trying to think of ways that this could be more interactive. And again, I'm just very, very thankful for this space and all of the friends that I'm meeting through here. It's really great. So with that, we are going to open up Formula One racing for Dummies. So the contents at a glance, let's get this over a little bit. You see the introduction. There's part 1, speeding through the basics. Part 2, teams, drivers, and their cars. Part 3, what happens on and off the track. Part 4, understanding Formula One tracks. Part 5, you and Formula One, a day at the races. Part 6, part of 10s. And then part 7, the appendix. The table of contents will show you the introduction, the different chapters in each part. Like this, chapter 7, who's in the driver's seat. Chapter 6, the race team. I really like this because obviously this is kind of like an encyclopedia. If you just want to learn about safety, you can just go to page 167 in chapter 12. So today I wanted to just read the intro, and then I thought we could start in the back of the book actually with some F1 jargon. So, about this book and the introduction, speak to any of your friends or family about Formula One, and they'll definitely have an opinion. Some will claim that it's far too boring because the cars just go around in circles for a few hours until the race is finished. Others will say that the sport is far too complicated now, and the strategies have removed much of the gladiatorial aspect that once made it so popular. But if you speak to someone you know a little bit about it and has followed its ups and downs, you'll find that there's hundreds of different reasons why people love Formula One racing. Some enjoy following the drivers, some worship the cars, others are fascinated by the battle of technology, and still others just like being there at a race, soaking up the atmosphere. The more people follow the sport, the more they tend to get hooked on different aspects. You'll find that you usually watch your first race, whether on television or at a race circuit itself, purely out of curiosity to see what all the buzz is about. But as soon as you have seen it, you'll love the experience so much that you'll want to see even more. So here it has icons used in the book. I have never purchased a For Dummies book, but I'm assuming that these are kind of similar across the board. So you'll see these little icons to make understanding Formula One racing for Dummies easier. I used icons, small pictures in the margins to highlight important information. So this icon highlights helpful tips and advice that can save you time, money, or expiration. Why can't I say that word? As you watch Formula One events or partake in its festivities. This warning sign: there aren't many things you have to worry about as a Formula One fan, but when you should take extra heed, this icon warns you of what to watch out for. This little remember with the finger and the little bow, I use this icon to indicate important information or info that you want to add to your knowledge so that you can impress your friends or fellow Formula One fans. This little nerdy guy, this icon appears beside information that explains the finer points of Formula One technology that you may find interesting, but that you don't need to know. Feel free to skip this information at will. The little check mark from the cockpit. Formula One F1 teams and drivers engage in strategies both on the track and off. This icon appears besides information that tells how teams plan and plot against each other to gain a competitive edge. And then this little like speech bubble is the true story. This icon appears besides info relating to actual events in Formula One history. What better way to show off your Formula One knowledge than to repeat these nuggets to the colleagues, friends, and family you want to impress? So I wanted to start this series because I think there's a lot of information here. We could do maybe like a chapter at a time. Like this one is what makes Formula One, and comparing Formula One and other types of racing, such as IndyCar and NASCAR. And see, here's a little remember. The structure and hierarchy of motor racing is extremely complex and not very logical. All you really need to know is that in global terms, Formula One is at the top of the pyramid. But then we go into like team structures and technical directors and their roles. So we could spend, an entire episode going through sprint weekends and normal Grand Prix and the structure of them. I think that's like a really great starting point too. And then I highlighted this. I wanted to speak to this today, or maybe I'll actually save this information for my Dutch Grand Prix recap, because I'm going to do that. So we can read this first, and then we can go into the recap. But I'll read this for now. Zandvoort Dutch Grand Prix. The boom of interest in Formula One in the Netherlands, thanks to Max Verstappen's success, helped trigger the return of the Dutch Grand Prix to the calendar in 2021 after being off the schedule for 36 years. The seaside town of Zandvoort duly turns into a huge party of Verstappen fans over the race weekend as they make the most of the sunshine and good atmosphere to cheer on their hero. The track history is Zandvoort Circuit, built in the sand dunes near the seaside city. First hosted a non-championship F1 race in 1950 before joining the official calendar in 1952. It earned a reputation as a tricky high-speed challenge, but there were questions about the safety of the venue following the death of Pierce Courage in the 1970 race. Improvements to the venue were made for 1973, but there was another tragedy as British driver Roger Williams died after his car caught fire and track officials were too slow to respond and put the place out. The Dutch GP has featured several iconic moments, including when Ferrari's Gilles Villeneuve. I looked him up. Villeneuve famously tried returning to his pits at full speed with only 3 wheels on his car in 1979 after a crash, dragging broken bits behind him. So I looked this up last night, and Villeneuve, it's so hard for me to say, and I want to say Giles, but it's Gilles, right? Very famous racer, very famous. If you haven't looked up this, it's quite crazy. The race was dropped after 1985 when the company that ran the circuit went bust, and there seemed little hope of it ever returning. But Verstappen's popularity was enough for a new plan to be put in place, as the track was heavily revamped to include several banked corners. So it's a permanent track. The length is 2.646 miles. The length of the race is 72 laps, so 190.504 miles. The start time is 3 p.m. The top tip, as part of the safety revamp from its return to the F1 calendar, Zandvoort had to make some of its corners banked, as there was no space to build more more runoff areas. These are great places to watch cars in action, so be sure to check out the final corner. I'm pretty sure the banking, I'm pretty sure they have the gimbals on the cars too, that you can see the banking. Okay, let's get into the actual part of today. So, for all of my friends that are beginner F1 fans, and, saw the F1 movie or watched Drive to Survive, I'll be fully honest with you, I started watching Formula One at the 2024 Miami Grand Prix. That is why Lando Norris is my favorite driver. It's just a coincidence that he drives for McLaren. If you saw my diecast video, you'll understand why I'm such a McLaren fan from a very long time ago, but I didn't really watch Formula One until last year religiously, so I'm learning just as much as you all, but I'm such a nerd about it that I want to continue to learn more, especially about the history, like Villeneuve and really like some of the older drivers and the legacy behind it. But this is the appendix. Formula One jargon. So we'll start at the top of the alphabet, aerodynamics. This is the science of how air flows over the surface of the car. This information is used to find ways of increasing downforce and minimizing drag. Aerodynamic wing, C-wing. So we'll get to that, we'll just keep going down. Anti-roll bar, the part of the suspension system that prevents the car from leaning too much on its outer springs during cornering. Anti-roll bars are also a useful tool in setting the car up to make it handle well. The asphalt runoff area, so this is what we were just seeing in Sandpoint. There wasn't enough room to make more runoff areas. It's the area of asphalt situated between the edge of the track and the barriers. This area is designed to slow a car down in the event it runs off the circuit. Asphalt runoff areas are often built with high friction asphalt. We have a back marker, the term used to describe a driver at the rear of the field who has been caught up by the race leaders and needs to give way. Ballast, it's weight added to the car. Many teams intentionally build their cars lighter than the minimum weight limit so that there can be an added ballast in the right location, which helps with the car's handling and setup. Blocking. When a driver defends their position from another rival by moving into the area of track from which they were being attacked. Briefings. Meetings during which Formula One teams and drivers evaluate the data and telemetry from each practice session in a bid to find ways of improving the car. Briefings take up a great deal of time over race weekends, whether they are press pre-briefing to discuss tactics or debriefs to talk about things that have already happened. Camber, the amount of angle in which a tire is tilted in from vertical. This adjustment is designed to ensure that there is a maximum contact patch between the tire and the track when the car is under cornering load. Carbon fiber, a space-age material made from sheets of carbon used to build a modern Formula One car. It is twice as light and can be up to 5 times as strong as aluminium. For my European friends. CFD. I'm sorry, there is someone. I don't know if they're moving out or if they're, I making some noise, so I apologize. CFD. Computational fluid dynamics. The discipline of studying the behavior of fluids, including air, via computer programs. CFD is used as an asset for aerodynamicists and enables the aerodynamics of small parts or small changes to be studied without actually making the part or the change. Chassis, the main structure of the car, which mostly encompasses the driver's safety cell. Chicane, a tight sequence of corners on the track designed to slow down cars. Chicanes have usually been fitted in the middle of long straights and ahead of very fast corners to improve safety. Closing the door, a slang term used to describe blocking, where a driver moves over on arrival to close the gap that would have allowed them to have been overtaken. A contact patch, the surface area of tire that is actually in contact with the track surface. The contact patch can be affected by the tire pressure or camber. Crash test, the strict test that Formula One cars have to pass every year to ensure that they're strong enough and therefore safe enough to actually race. These tests vary from high-speed impacts and structures to load testing on specific parts. The curb, the usually red and white raised sections of concrete on the side of the circuit, usually on the entry and exit of corners, designed to keep the cars on the circuit and provide a little bit of runoff area in case drivers take the corner slightly too fast. Customer teams, teams owned by independent team bosses that have to pay for their supply of engines from the manufacturer teams. Data logging, the electronic readings of elements of the cars. I'm getting a call now. The electronic readings of elements of the cars, including engine, suspension, and driver inputs. The transmitting of the data is called telemetry. The delta, a term often used by teams to reference the time difference between two laps, two cars, or different tire compounds. Under VSC or safety cars, drivers must keep below a lap time delta set by the FIA. Dampers, part of the suspension system that damps out oscillations in the springs. Dampers affect how stable the car is under braking and cornering and can be used to fine-tune the car's setup. Diffuser, an upward sweeping construction on the underside of the car behind the rear axle line. Air channeled through the diffuser creates a suction effect that pulls the car to the ground, which creates downforce, the amount of air pressure through the aerodynamic wings, and diffuser pushes the car onto the ground at high speed. Downforce is one of the most important elements of modern Formula One, with increased downforce meaning higher cornering speeds and improved traction. Drag, the amount of resistance a car experiences as it travels through air. Drag can be caused by the aerodynamic wings or other parts of the car, such as radiators, tires, and the driver themselves. Lower drag means higher top speeds in straight line. Maximum downforce will nail the car to the ground under braking and in corners, but at the cost of drag. Driver aids, the generic term describing electronic systems such as traction control and launch control that have been banned for quite a while now. Drive-through penalty, a penalty for a breach of sporting regulations such as overtaking under a yellow flag, whereby the driver has to return to the pits and drive the length of the pit lane at the regulation speed limit before rejoining. Drag reduction system, or DRS. The overtaking aid that adjusts the angle of the rear wing main flap to reduce drag on the straights and help a pursuing car get a straight line speed boost to pass a rival. It can be used freely in specific zones throughout practice and qualifying, but is only activated in races if a driver is less than 1 second behind another car. End plates. The shaped plates at the edges of the front and rear wings that help to direct the air efficiently to teams so teams can better manage airflow. The energy store, the battery storage for the extra electrical power drivers can deploy on a racing lap. FIA, Federation Internationale de l'Automobile. My French is not great, so basically the Federation of International Automobile, if you're in America. The governing body of motorsport, part of its job is regulating Formula One. Flags used by marshals for signaling drivers. The following explains various flags in their meetings. A yellow flag is warning or danger ahead, no overtaking. Waved yellow, extreme caution, be prepared to stop. Blue, a faster car is trying to lap you. White, a slow-moving vehicle, maybe a course car, maybe a troubled car, is on the track. In IndyCar, the white flag is the penultimate, so they'll wave this on the last lap. Black flag is go immediately to the pits and you're disqualified. Red flag is the race or the session has been stopped. Yellow flag with red stripes is a slippery surface warning. Oil or water is on the track. And the checkered flag, the most famous flag, end of the race, sometimes hung out by a local celebrity under careful guidance of someone who understands what they're actually doing. FOM, Formula One Management Company. The Formula One Management Company looks after all the commercial rights activities of Formula One. Its current CEO is Stefano Domenicali. Formation lab. The final lap before the actual start of the race, during which the cars are waved away from the grid and then warm up their tires and brakes before they form up on the grid. Actual start. The fuel cell. Castings of modern Formula One cars. Fuel cells are made of deformable Kevlar material, which is puncture-proof so that it can't rupture in the event of an accident. Grand Prix, originally the French term for big prize, nowadays is referred to the individual events that make up the Formula One World Championship. The first Grand Prix race was held in 1906 at Le Mans in France. A gravel trap is an area situated next to the side of the track in front of the tires or crash barriers. The gravel trap, which is filled with very small stones, is designed to slow down a car to a halt if it runs off the track. Gremlins, a slang term that refers to unexpected problems with a car, either mechanically or with electric systems. Grid, the area of the start line where the cars take their place before the start. These places are arranged in rows of 2, and each grid position is marked with white paint. Handling, a term that drivers or team members use to describe how a car feels to drive. The better a car handles, the more suitable the driver feels it is for the racetrack. Hans, head and neck support device. A modern safety system that fits around the driver's neck and helmet to protect them in the event of a major crash. Hans devices were made compulsorily in Formula One from the start of 2003. Hard tire compounds. Tires that are made of hard compound of rubber. Although the hard compound rubber doesn't provide as much grip as the softer compound rubber over one lap, it is far more durable for long race distance runs. The headrest is a protective headrest for the drivers that fits around the side of the car and protects the driver's head in the event of an accident. Horsepower, horsepower. A unit of measurement describing how much power an engine generates. Hospitality unit is the name given to the motorhomes that the teams use in Formula One paddock to enter sponsors, guests, and the media. KM/H, which just is an abbreviation for kilometers per hour. The lap chart is a special chart that fans and teams use to log the progress of a Formula One race. This chart depicts any changes in position as well as laps when cars retire or stop for fresh tires. Lap traffic is cars not on the lead lap that have already been overtaken by the race leader. Left foot braking. The art of drivers using their left foot to brake off for corners rather than their right foot as they would in normal road cars. Although some drivers struggle to drive Formula One cars like this, many believe that left foot braking is quicker because it frees up the right foot to ensure engine revs, and therefore speed can be maintained. Loose. How a car feels when it starts braking away from a driver during cornering. Cars feel loose, for example, because of oil on the track, a bad setup, or just over-exuberant driving. Manufacturer term teams. Teams funded and or owned by the major car manufacturers in the sport. So like Ferrari or Mercedes, McLaren. Marbles. The small bits of rubber that were worn off tires during the race and collect off the racing line. If a driver accidentally runs off the line over these cars, they are likely to be in for a shock because they slip and slide on the tarmac and then collect on the tires for a few laps, leading even less grip. Marks. The lines of adhesive tape laid down by the pit crew to denote exactly where the car should stop when it pits. These marks enable the wheelmen to have their kit at exactly the right place, saving vital seconds. Marshals. The personnel at each event whose job it is to attend to any accidents and remove cars from dangerous places. These men and women are usually in direct touch with race control. MGUH, the motor generator unit, which is a heat, is a symbol that generates electrical energy from waste exhaust heat produced by a turbo engine. This energy is transferred to a battery that helps deliver a power boost to drivers further around the lap. MGUK, so kinetic motor generated unit, is a system that recovers electrical energy from the crankshaft, which is normally wasted under braking, and also works as a motor to boost engine power under acceleration. I'm pretty sure my car has an MGUK, like motor generated unit. Moment. What drivers refer to when they have a scary incident on the track, whether it is another car nearly hitting them or merely coming close to an accident all by themselves. Monocoque. The modern fashion of creating one-piece chassis that forms the central part of the car. Motorhome. The modern family used as the team space during a Formula One weekend. Although these were once real motorhomes, nowadays they're custom-made trailer units that open out into mezzanine areas for meeting places. mph, miles per hour. Nomex, the specialist of fireproof material used in drivers' overalls and balaclavas that guarantees protection for around 12 seconds in the event of a serious fire, enough time for marshals or medical personnel to arrive at the scene of an accident. One move rule. The rule covering how much a driver is allowed to attempt to block a rival who is trying to overtake them. The driver in front is only allowed to move once to defend their position. One move rule has eliminated the dangerous art of weaving down a straight where a driver would keep swerving to make sure that nobody could pass them. Outbreak. When a driver trying to overtake their rival manages to brake a little bit later for a corner and therefore gains track position. Out of shape. A team drivers used to explain that they had a wild moment during a corner or coming onto a straight. The phrase means that their Formula One car was not handling perfectly or on the perfect racing line and needed a bit of help to bring it back into shape. Oversteer. This is one that a lot of people have trouble differentiating oversteer and understeer. Oversteer is when the rear of the car slides more than the front of the car during cornering. That is, the car is turning more when the steering wheel, turning more than the steering wheel input. So, oversteer. If this is the front of the car, is that paddock, an area usually immediately behind the pit garage is where the team's motorhomes, transporters, and the manufacturer facilities are based. The paddock is the hub of the weekend's non-track activities, with press conferences, sponsor and entertainment, and secret deals taking place all weekend. Paddock Pass. The credential needed to gain access to the Formula One paddock. These cannot be purchased and are only given to working personnel, drivers, media, and sponsors' guests. A paint scheme. The color scheme of the car, which is usually mostly decided by the team's sponsors. Pits. The area where the team work on the cars during the weekend. The garages of the teams usually face onto the pit lane and back onto the paddock. The pit board. The boards hung by the teams all over the pit wall to advise drivers on what's going on in the race. Teams also use radio systems to communicate, but such systems are not infallible, and the pit board is a useful fail-safe device to convey in communications between the driver and the pits. Pit crew. The team personnel who swings into action during pit stops to refuel the cars and fit fresh tires. So actually, they don't refuel anymore. Some pit crews do, but in F1 they don't refuel anymore. The pit lane, a separate road that typically runs inside the racetrack, usually parallel to the start and finish line. The drivers take to get to their garage or tires or repairs. And a pit stop. When a car pulls down the pit lane to take on some fresh tires or for repairs to be made. A plank. It's the mandatory length of wood that teams must fit underneath their cars, which is aimed at stopping them running too close to the ground and permanently bottoming out. The wood plank must not be worn away too much at the end of a race, otherwise teams will be disqualified. So sometimes when you see like the sparks of a car, like if they're braking or turning and you see sparks coming out, it's because their plank is scraping the floor. The podium, a place where the top 3 drivers are handed their trophies and the champagne immediately after the race. The podium features 3 steps of varying heights, with the tallest for first place situated in the middle. Pole position. The first position on the grid, the position is awarded to the driver who has set the fastest time in qualifying. The race director is the person in charge of the smooth running of all on-track activities. He ensures procedures are followed, that the action is taken if drivers or teams break the regulations. The racing line. The theoretical best line around the racing track for the perfect lap. The racing line is not necessarily the shortest distance, but one that involves the smoothest turns around each corner or each bend can be taken, so that each bend can be taken at the highest possible speed. A reserve driver is a driver who is called into action if one or 2 regular drivers is forced out through illness or injury. The reserve driver can only race, however, if they take part in qualifying. So many of them fly home from Grand Prix meetings on Saturday night. revolutions per minute, RPM, the number of times an engine turns over per minute. The roll bar, we saw anti-roll bar. The roll hoop, these parts of the car in front and behind the driver that are designed to hold the weight of the car in case it rolls over and ends up upside down. These ultra-strong parts are tested prior to the season in an extensive crash test. The rumble strip, a type of curbing fitted at the exit of the corner and featuring steep layers or ridges that make a noise when the car runs over them. Rumble strips are designed to deter drivers from running wide too often. The safety car, a sedan used during a race that the race director deems continuing at full speed too dangerous. The safety car drives in front of the race leaders for a number of laps until the race director calls it back into the pits. When the safety car returns into the pits, racing starts again. Seats especially molded for each driver, following the contours of their back and designed to be removed along with the driver in the event of serious accident. Sectors. For the purpose of timing, every F1 track is divided into three separate sectors, Sector 1, 2, and 3, which each cover around 1/3 of a lap. The semi-automatic gearboxes that require the driver to simply pull or push a pedal switch on the back of the steering wheel to indicate the gear they want to select. Setup, how a car is prepared for running on the track. A car's setup is determined by every single component of the car, including tires, suspension, engine, electronics, and brakes. A show car is a Formula One car no longer used for racing that is usually repaired and repainted and used. A sponsor's functions for display only. Show cars are usually not fitted with proper engines. Shunt, a slang term for an accident. The skid block is made up of titanium and fitted underneath the car. The skid blocks can help prevent excessive wear on the wooden plank and runs the length of the floor. When the blocks hit the ground, they trigger the sparks that can be seen flying out of the back of the cars. So this is on top of the wood. I misspoke. It's not the wood actually hitting, it's the skid block. Slick tires. Tires that have completely smooth surface without this type of groove seen on road car tires. These tires maximize the contact patch with the ground and therefore produce the maximum amount of grip around the corners and offer the best traction. A slipstream. It's the vacuum of air formed behind a racing car during high speeds. Drivers try to get into the slipstream produced by other drivers' cars so that they can get sucked along. Although this lack of air is great in straight line because it reduces drag, in cornering there is less airflow for downforce. Soft tire compounds. Tires that are made up of soft tires, type of rubber, which provides more grip in dry conditions but won't last as long as hard, durable compounds. Sponsors. The generic term for companies that pay to be involved with the team that have their logos on the cars. Springs. The suspension system in the car. Formula One springs can look like concentric coil springs you see on most road cars, or they can be torsion bar springs, a metal bar with a certain amount of give in it. Stewards, the people at each Formula One race whose job it is to ensure that the rules of the FIA are followed. Stewards also decide the severity of penalties handed to drivers or teams that are advised on any offenses by the race director. A stop-and-go penalty. A penalty in which a driver must come into the pits and stop at their pit crew for a set period of time before rejoining the race. During a stop-and-go penalty, no work can be done on the car. Offenses that merit this penalty include overtaking under yellow flags. A teammate, a driver who races for the same team as another driver. The technical director is the person in charge of a Formula One team's design, development, and construction of its car. Nowadays, these individuals are supported by other senior management figures because the cars are so complex. Telemetry. The practice of recording information produced by a series of sensors fitted all over the car and beamed back to computer terminals for later study. The sensors measure exactly how the car is performing, and the data can be used to perfect the setup of a car, warn or imminent problems with certain components, or analyze new electrics settings. Traction control. The now banned electronic system that helps a car maximizing traction coming out of a corner. In the car's computer sends too much over or wheel spin, they cut the engine a little so that the wheel spin is minimized to help acceleration. Truckee, the person who drives the race team's transporters of each Formula One race and who helps out with spares and other activities actually at the Grand Prix event. Tire barriers. The barriers by the side of racing circuits that are protected by several layers of old road car tires bound together. These tires surrounded barriers provide the best cushioning for cars that spin off the track at high speed and hit the outer perimeter of the track. A tub is the central section of the car which mainly features the cockpit and driver's safety cell. Here's understeer. When the front of the car slides more than the rear of the car during cornering, that is, the car is not turning as much as the steering wheel is telling it to. So if this was oversteer, if we're coming around the corner, let's see if we can do this a little lower. If that's oversteer, this is understeer. The car just keeps going. Uprights, the casting onto which the wheel hub is attached on one side and the suspension on the other. VSC, or the virtual safety car, is the virtual safety car is a tool used by F1's race control to slow competitors down during a minor accident or incident, such as a car being stopped at the side of the track. When activated, drivers have to back off to a specific delta time under the VSC period ends when racing resumes immediately. Wets, the type of special groove tires used during wet weather conditions. Wets designed to channel water away from underneath the tires, maximize grip, and minimize the chance of hydroplaning. The wet tires are made of a soft compound that doesn't last very long in dry conditions. The wheelbase is the distance between the axles on the same side of the car. A long wheelbase car tends to be stable once into the corner, but unresponsive in direction change. A short wheelbase car can usually change direction better, but is more twitchy in the corners. A wind tunnel is the specially designed tunnel used in testing aerodynamic parts of cars. Wind tunnels work by firing air over the car, which then can be analyzed to work out how much downforce is being created and how much drag there is. A team without a good wind tunnel stands no chance of designing a winning Formula One car. The last two are wing and wishbone. A wing is the front rear air folds designed to force the car down onto the ground during cornering. Formula One wings are in effect merely upside down airplane wings that make use of the same air pressure effect that keeps jumbo jets up in the sky. And the last one is wishbone. The suspension arms, usually made from carbon fiber, that transfer the loads from the wheels to the springs and dampers. These arms are usually arranged in wishbone formations. So that is all of the jargon, and now we've made it to the index of the book. But I hope some of this terminology and these vocabulary words were either relaxing if you already knew them, or a nice little refresher if you kind of had an idea of what they were, or if you didn't know some of these. I hope that educated you in learning a little bit more about the sport. That is Formula One jargon. As you can see, we have so much left in this book. We even have some pictures here that we can get to. Understanding a Formula One car is chapter 5. We can do understanding the rule book. So yeah, I hope that you were able to cross the finish line into relaxation by going through this Formula One racing for dummies. Please let me know what you would like to see next, what part of the book you would like me to cover. If you haven't already, like I mentioned, we are almost at 500 subscribers, so thank you all so much. If you could just hit the thumbs up, and let me know in the comments what you're enjoying, what you have suggestions on. I really appreciate it. Again, I hope you were able to cross the finish line into relaxation, and until next time.